Watch how we use Bondo to create a rock edge profile and how we take a bunch of crazy colors to create a beautiful marble design to mimic natural stone.
All right, so now that we have the MDF board down, we're going to start the templating process. We laid the template out, and we have marked on our template overhang, drop edges. We have marked biscuits on our template, which allocates for maybe the bowing and the wall. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that we have each one of these measured out. That way we can start marking our template and starting the cutting process. All right, so now that we have the template off, we have everything marked, we have our track down, and we're gonna start this first cut along the long edge of this counter.
After you've glued up your edge, you'll need to sand with 120 net to remove all the residual glue to ensure proper bonding of the Bondo. We create a crisscross X pattern using a 50 grit flat disc on an angle grinder to achieve contour, depth, and additional surface area for good mechanical bonding of the Bondo putty. We finish the top and the bottom with a 45-degree chamfer. Pro tip, be sure that the piece is blown off to eliminate surface dust to ensure the Bondo will adhere properly before your next step. Here we are mixing up the first of 2 Bondo applications. We mix the Bondo with the hardener, and when it is pink, it is ready to apply.
And so this one we put on fairly thick. So you can come in behind me.
I have to go and basically rolling it under the edges.
Yeah.
Rolling it over the top edge. And then chopping it to give it texture. Making sure that all the wood for the rock edge is covered.
And the good thing about this is, even if we miss a little bit,
The second coat
the
will
second coat will get it.
You do the same amount on the second coat?
No.
No, it's a lot less on the second coat. And on the second coat, when I'm doing this part for the spikes, it's going to be a lot more fine spikes. And it's done a little bit faster.
How much time do you have to work on this?
So it really depends. When it's really warm outside, then our working time
It's like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's very short.
But right now we have probably 5 to 8 minutes working time.
That's why I kind of made up enough, I think, to get through both sides.
Round 2.
Round 2.
Same idea, rolling over the edges again.
That's violent.
Yeah. just put in the second application of Bondo for our rock edge. So as you can see, it looks very spiky. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our sander here and we're going to first try to knock down those spikes. And once we do that, then we're going to add the round over sanding, and that way we can get into a rock edge type look. So let me get this knocked down and then you can see what it looks like afterwards. So if you come in close, now you can see this very natural, organic type of shape that you would see on a piece of rock.
Okay, we are ready to get started on this design, and what I've already done is fogged the top of the counter and my edges. And what I mean by that is I take spray paint in the colors that I'm going to be using, so that way there has a little bit of an undertone in there, and it really creates a cool effect. If there's any more translucent colors that we end up using, you can see down into it. And I fog the edges, so it's just a slight fog like this, right? So I kind of go around and I lightly fog everywhere. But then what you can see on the edge is I take all the colors and I use a plastic bag. I turn it inside out so that way none of the lettering comes off on my counter. And I spray a little bit of the spray paint, and I come in here and push it lightly into the counter, turning it so it goes different places, and then I kind of just smack it in. And I do this over and over with several colors. So for this design, I have fogged with dark brown spray paint, with dark bronze metallic spray paint, a little bit of black, some espresso, some bright gold, a little bit of white. I have a charcoal gray, and metallic champagne bronze. So the edges are now done. We will wipe everything off. After you've done this, make sure you dust it off because you'll have overspray dust on there. So we'll dust it off and then we'll get started. Okay, we are ready to pour, so I just want to go over the colors that we have mixed up. We are doing about 5 ounces per square foot on this because it's a melded marble technique and we're having so many colors, we wanted to make sure that we had enough to cover the surface. So we are using molten gold mica from Stone Coat. We have pale gold evolution. I don't know who it's from. It was gifted to me and I love it. Dark bronze mica powder from Stone Coat. Pearl from Stone Coat, coffee metallic from Stone Coat, and then we have pewter mixed with some diamond dust, as well as brown metallic mixed with bronze dust, just to give a little sparkle. And then we have star silver pearl, also gifted to me, so I don't know where it comes from, with some diamond dust and a tiny bit of black alumilite dye. Mixed into our epoxy for some fractures all the way at the end. I'm also using bright gold spray paint, and you'll see how I incorporate all of that. So we will get started. All right, I'm starting with my darkest color, and then I'm going to move upwards towards the lighter colors. So in no particular order, in terms of where I'm pouring, just getting this out on the surface. And I'm going to go over to my pale gold. So that was coffee. There's pale gold. So I'm sort of just going to pour around where I've already poured, knowing I have material there. If it touches it, it's fine because I'm going to marble it all together. So it's no big deal. And I like sometimes having bigger pockets of colors, not just a bunch of little lines. Got dark bronze. Kind of think about what colors you want to start mixing with what. So I know that I want pockets of dark near the gold where I can push that gold over. I'm going to come in with pewter. I'll come in with my pearl. This will help add some pockets of lightness under this. So fill in between your darker areas. Okay, I'm gonna torch everything now and start to fill in the pockets with my hand before I start melding this together with a Bondo spreader. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm gonna fill in any spots and I'm gonna just push some of this edge epoxy towards the sides. I'm not worried about the fact that it's already blending, but I'm not trying to necessarily blend them together yet. I just need there to be epoxy on all the edges so I can then also rub the rock edge. Okay, so I'm going to take a Bondo spreader. This is a medium-sized one. I have a small one standing by, and I'm going to just start pushing these colors through each other. I'm not trying to blend them too much. I'm going in different directions, spreading it out, allowing the mica powder to interact, and that's when it's going to create some really amazing designs. Don't overthink this. So how it's gooping up and doing all of that, that's what's gonna make it look natural, and you still have plenty of time to work this and touch anything you don't like. Pull the epoxy, like let's say if you have too much in the middle, kind of work it towards your edge if you needed some, just a little bit. But you want those colors to start melding together. And this particular design was inspired by the customer's photo, and it was a piece of stone that kind of just goes in all different directions. The key here is to not overwork this or it'll all look the same. It'll blend together and kind of look like mud, which you don't want. But I'm picking up some of the color as I go. Let's say there's a lot of dark here and not enough here. You just pick a little bit up on that Bondo spreader, making sure that I get an even distribution of color. So what I do at this point is I look for any areas that maybe I didn't quite blend enough. Anything that stands out to me as a blob of color that maybe shouldn't be there. You don't have to blend every part even. You can just leave some plain underneath if you wanted. But I'm just trying to make sure this goes in lots of different directions. So I'll break it up if I need to. But it looks pretty good so far. Okay, so the color is all down, but I want to soften the design and kind of not make it look so choppy. So I'm going to soften it a little first with my heat gun and go from there. When you do this, just start to push it in different directions because you still want that blended look that's going in all different directions. So you're just starting to heat it long enough for it to move, and then pick up your heat gun and move on. If you stay in one spot too long, you'll push all your epoxy away and you'll have a bare spot and you could burn it. You also can start to push a little of it over your rock edge or your edge, whatever kind of edge it is, to get it to start to flow over. Okay, we've heated the table with the heat gun, and now we're gonna soften in long drags to really get it to blend. The design is pretty linear, but it does kind of go out in a couple different directions, but not so wild. I'm still using a pretty light touch. So I really like taking the Bondo spreader and moving it around kind of organically to create its own versions of veins, because it's going to sort of stay on top now that it's been sitting here a while. So I'm creating its own pattern, and I love how micas will hold that as long as you wait a long time. So it's been a little over an hour since we mixed this epoxy. So this is how long you would need to wait if you wanted it to hold on to that pattern. So after we've done some cool effects on the lines, I'm just coming over and softening them up a little bit with the heat gun. I'm not trying to get rid of all the effects, I'm just trying to move them around a little bit so they're not super harsh. It'll look more natural that way, but I'm not overheating because I don't want to get rid of the look. So it's a real quick heat gun. And we are finished. So we have poured everything. We've actually messed with this for about 2 hours. So that tells you your working time is really long. And if you're working with mica powders and you want it to have that textured look underneath, you need it to wait till it really, really sets up. So that way it'll hold that pattern without flattening out, since it wants to self-level. So we're going to show you some up close designs, and then we will top coat it in 2 days. Tomorrow, just get a flood coat and we'll show you the final product.